I guess we're okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 11th, 2019 Salisbury City Council Legislative Session. At this time, I would ask that you silence all electronic devices. If you need to make a phone call, we ask that you please leave the chamber and do it in the hallway. Should an emergency arise during the meeting, please calmly proceed to the nearest exit. Make a right-hand turn when you exit the chamber and go down the stairs. If for some reason that exit is blocked, please make a left and then a right and go down the stairs. If you need assistance, please ask and it will be provided to you. Please do not use the elevator if there is an emergency. At this time, I'll call Reverend Dr. Maggie Gillespie, pastor of Wicomico Presbyterian Church, for our invocation. Good evening, Pastor.
Good evening. Thank you. Would you join me in prayer? Holy and infinite God, source of love and mercy, justice and righteousness, we come here this evening from the busyness and demands of our day to work together for the good of this community. Building on the foundation of decisions that have been made, issues that have been dealt with, we look now at issues that are before us, decisions we have yet to make. We ask for your wisdom, Holy One. We ask for your strength in helping us to become better servants of your love. We give you thanks for the gift of this day and all that has been given to us in it. We give you thanks for the gift of life and the abundance that is ours. On this evening, as we are gathered, we see resolutions and ordinances, issues that will be simple and those that may be thorny, raising feelings good and bad. Grant that these, our public servants, may have listening hearts and wisdom to make decisions that will bring the greatest good to this community and to the people that they serve. We ask your blessing and guidance through it all. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Gillespie. Please rise now and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to present Ms. Sarah Rain, Government and Public Relations Director for the Coastal Association of Realtors, with a market report, a brief market report.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I brought a realtor with me, because she's the expert, to present these numbers to you. So this is Cameron Drew. She is on our board of directors and co-chair of our Government Affairs Committee. Thanks, Sarah.
Good evening, Cameron.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Cameron Drew. I'm a realtor with the Power of Two team with Heilman Real Estate. I'm on the board of directors for the Coastal Association of Realtors, and I serve as co-chair for the association's Government Affairs Committee. We appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you. Like last year, we will provide a snapshot of how Salisbury's real estate market fared throughout the 2018, as well as comparison data for the past 4 years, plus 2007, which is before the Great Recession. This data is pulled from the Bright Multiple List Services, which is used by all local realtors. These numbers are purely residential data or single-family homes. If you'd like different information, like commercial data, please let us know. Right here?
Arrow to the right.
Perfect. Okay, so as you can see, Salisbury's numbers mostly show incremental growth each year. If you look down at homes sold, you will see the number of homes sold in 2018 increased by 11.5% between 2017 and 2018. Compared to 2007, the numbers of homes sold increased by 24.3%. Volume sold shows a similar increase of 14.4% when comparing 2018 to 2017. However, when you compare 2018 to 2007, you will see a 4.4 decrease, showing a drop in value. This is also translated by the average sales price, which you will show a roughly 3% increase between 2017 and 2018, but a 23% decrease when you compare 2018 to 2007. Active listings and new listings are creeping up, but we are still struggling with inventory shortage to meet demand. Is that the next thing? Okay. Wacomico County's numbers are similar, but if you look at the homes sold, you'll see a 22% increase when comparing 2018 to 2007, and a 6% increase when comparing 2017 to 2018. Volume sold again shows that the decrease in value. The average sales price has remained somewhat steady over the past 5 years, but did increase about 2.4% between 2017 and 2018. It decreased by 25% when compared to 2007 numbers. Active and new listings increased, but again, we're struggling with the inventory shortage. All right, and here are a few figures reported this year by the Maryland Association of Realtors, which is our state association. As you can see, they're reporting a statewide 4.9 decrease in the number of units sold. The median sales price increased by 4%, and the average price increased by 3.4%. So, what we can expect to see this coming year? Well, we're hoping for continued growth, of course. The current 30-year mortgage rate is around 4.4%, which is down compared to this time last year. Freddie Mac predicts the rate will reach 4.6% by the end of the year, and they say it will reach 4.9% in 2020. Unemployment rates are down, so of course we'd hope this would create more consumer confidence and more home sales. However, Maryland as a whole didn't have a great year in 2018. If we continue to struggle with inventory and see higher prices and higher mortgage rates, we could have another bumpy year. But there is a lot of economic uncertainty in the U.S. economy right now. The economy is getting stronger, which drives up borrowing cost. We're also seeing expanding human capital shortfalls or a lack of necessary skills to bring employment needs on an ongoing trade disputes. So it's hard to tell you what the year will bring. Locally, we're hoping to keep property taxes at current levels, continue to encourage development and smart growth, and continue to encourage folks to make sure what is possibly the largest investment of their lives on the Lower Eastern Shore. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? I have one.
Okay.
You're talking about the fact that the activity is low because of the inventory. We've made some strides to try to increase the inventory. How much business is out there? How many, I assume, based on what you're saying, is that there are people looking for homes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Is that attributable to anything that you can expand on in terms of?
You mean in terms of,
Let's say the city versus the county.
okay.
The numbers vary it's pretty impressive in the city side of it. How much more can we expect if we increased our inventory by 5%? Would that be consumed quickly?
We think so, yeah. There's a definite demand out there, and Salisbury is, with your growth and continuing to do things like expand the downtown and offer events like the folk festival, and there's just a draw coming into the city. So our members are seeing a lot of demand, but they're having trouble filling the demand with the inventory. So they're looking for single-family homes. Some of them are looking for newer single-family homes because a lot of the inventory that's already in the city is aged. So,
And I'll say from experience, I just showed a property last week in Salisbury, and it ended up having 4 offers on it within 2 days, and by the time we got in, we didn't really have a chance. So it's definitely, we're shortfall with what we can provide the buyers to buy.
I mean, I live in the village of Tony Tank Creek, and those houses don't even, there's no sign, I mean, they sell within a week. Is that because of the amount of seniors coming in, or?
To me,
Do
I
we
just
know?
think it's the demand for housing. It doesn't really vary on location. It's Salisbury, when a house comes on the market that's priced accordingly and is a good buy, you get multiple offers. I'm very often in a multiple offer situation now, especially in Salisbury and Wacomico County.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the legislative agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Ireton?
Second.
Ms. Jackson?
She's quick.
Good evening, Mrs. Nichols.
Good evening, Mr. Heath, council. On the consent agenda tonight, we have the January 28th, 2019 regular meeting minutes, January 28th work session minutes, and the same date, closed session minutes, February 4th, 2019 work session minutes. We have resolution number 2919 approving the extension of acting status for acting Salisbury Police Corporal Brandon Caton, acting Police Corporal Michael Mitchell, and acting Police Sergeant Jason Harrington, all assigned to the Patrol Division. Resolution number 2920 approving the appointment of Melissa Wilson to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for term ending March 2022. Resolution number 2921, approving the appointment of Dr. Samantha Scott to the Youth Development Advisory Committee for term ending March 2022. And resolution number 2922, declaring that 212 East Main Street LLC is eligible to receive enterprise zone benefits for property located at 207 East Market Street. And that's it.
Excuse me, any questions? Hearing none. Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Nichols. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2914.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, I'll give it to Ms. Blake. Welcome back, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Nice to have you back.
Resolution number 2914, a resolution of the City of Salisbury pursuant to the authority of Article 11E Constitution of the State of Maryland in Section 4-301, Subtitle 3, Title 4, Division 2, and Section 4-401, Subtitle 4, Title 4, Division 2, Local Government Article, Annotated Code of Maryland for the purpose of amending its corporate limits as required in its Charter SC1-2, which covers the description of the lands that make up the city, to correct an inadvertent property description involving a parcel of land owned by Kevin Leonard Smith Jr., which was included in a prior annexation near Queen Avenue and West Road. Whereas the City of Salisbury expanded its corporate limits in accordance with the State of Maryland required annexation procedures when it passed and approved Resolution number 1447, which was subsequently filed with the State of Maryland, and which annexed real property located on the northerly side of Queen Avenue and westerly side of West Road, including a portion of West Road and Queen Avenue, said parcel having been contiguous to and binding upon the westerly corporate limit of the City of Salisbury. And whereas in accordance with Section 4-301 of the Local Government Article Annotated Code of Maryland, the City of Salisbury is required pursuant to its Charter SC1-2 to include a description of its annexed land completed in accordance with Section 4-401 of the Local Government Article Annotated Code of Maryland. And whereas the city's past adoption of Resolution number 1447 and the subsequent annexed lands became effective on or about January 25th, 2007. And whereas resolution number 1447 contained a property description that inadvertently included a property which is then owned by Blommer Properties LLC, which was not to have been included in the annexation property description. And whereas the affected parcel of property was subsequently acquired by Kevin Leonard Jr. Smith from Blommer Properties LLC by deed dated March 20th, 2018, and subsequently recorded in the land records for Wycomico County, Maryland in Liber MSB number 4302, folio 282, having a property address of 1410 West Road, Salisbury, Maryland, 21801. And whereas incorrect meets and bounds description, which included that property, was recently discovered, and there has been no municipal services provided to that property after the adoption of number 1447, and the property owner desires an inadvertent error to be corrected, which requires a revised city boundary description. And whereas the property inadvertently included in the prior annexation property description was at the time of the annexation owned by Blommer Properties LLC, District 9, property tax ID number 036423, map 29, parcel 224, deed reference Liber 2972, folio 0084, being lot number 1, block Q, and parcel of the land 145 feet in width and extended back from said lot number 1, block Q, from a distance of 230 feet, as shown and designated on a plat of Westside Manor, section number 1, made for Chandler and Carey by G.F. Schaefer, R.S., dated June 1960, and recorded among the land records of Wycomico County, Maryland, and Liber JWTS number 486, folio 11, subject to and together with two certain 10-foot easements described in a deed from Chandler and Carey Incorporated et al. To Lola M. White et al. Dated August 15, 1962, and recorded among the land records for Wycomico County, Maryland, and Liber JWTS number 551, folio 308, the improvements thereon being known as 1410 West Road, Salisbury, Maryland, 21801. And whereas the City of Salisbury received a petition from Kevin Leonard Smith Jr. on December 28, 2018, Exhibit 1, requesting the correction to be made pertaining to the hereinafter described parcel of land that was previously included in the annexation property described in Resolution Number 1447, since not to have been included in the annexation. And whereas Leslie S. Sherrill, Surveyor of the City of Salisbury, prepared and reviewed the corrected meets and bounds description, and whereas it appears that all the requirements of the applicable law have been met, and whereas the City of Salisbury consents to the correction, has confirmed that the current petitioner is the valid owner of the affected property. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Salisbury that the charter description pertaining to the city's property boundaries shall be amended to correct the meter pits and bounds description contained in Resolution Number 1447, which shall be replaced with the corrected meets and bounds description contained in Exhibit A. And be it further resolved that the affected property is described as follows. All of that lot or parcel of land situated, lying, and being in the Salisbury Election District, Wycomico County, State of Maryland, located on the westerly side of and binding upon West Road, and more particularly described as following: beginning from the same at the intersection of the westerly line of West Road with the northerly line of a future 50-foot street, as shown on a plat of Westside Manor, section number 1, hereinafter further to thence number 1, running north 05 degrees 40 minutes east by and with westerly line of said West Road, a distance of 145 feet, to the southerly line of lot number 3, block Q, as shown on said plat, thence number 2, running north 84 degrees 20 minutes west by and with the southerly line of lot number 3, block Q, as shown as said plat, and through other land now or formerly of Chandler or Carey Incorporated, a distance of 400 feet, thence running south 05 degrees 40 minutes west, a distance of 140 feet to the northerly line of the aforementioned future 50-foot street, thence number 4, running by and with the northerly line of said future 50-foot street, south 84 degrees 20 minutes east, a distance of 400 feet to the place of the beginning, being lot number 1, block Q, and a parcel of land 145 feet in width and extending back from a said lot number 1, block Q, for a distance of 230 feet, as shown and designated on a plat of West Side Manor, section number 1, made for Chandler and Carey by G.F. Schaefer, R.S., dated June 1960, and recorded among the land records of Wycomico County, Maryland, and Liber JWTS number 486, folio 11, subject to and together with two certain 10-foot easements described in a deed from Chandler and Carey, Inc. et al. To Lola M. White et al. Dated August 15, 1962, and recorded among the land records for Wycomico County, Maryland, and Liber JWTS number 551, folio 308. The improvements thereon being known as 410 West Road, Salisbury, Maryland, 21801. Be it further resolved that a public hearing is scheduled for April 8, 2019 at 6 p.m. And be it further resolved that the zoning map of the city of Salisbury shall be amended to address the correction tied to the aforementioned parcel of the property, which will revise the city's municipal boundaries. And be it further resolved that the council hold a public hearing on the correction of the prior annexation property description hereby proposed on April 8, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers at the city county office building. The city administrator shall cause a public notice of time and place of said hearing to be published no fewer than 2 times at not less than weekly intervals in the newspaper of general circulations in the city of Salisbury, which said notice shall be specify a time and a place at which the council of city of Salisbury will hold a public hearing on the resolution, which shall be no sooner than 15 days after the final required date of the publication specified above. And be it further resolved by the council of the city of Salisbury that this resolution shall take effect upon the expiration of 45 days following this final passage, subject, however, to the right of referendum as contained in the local government article of the Maryland Code. Thank you so much. There's more. Mark, I don't know how you do it.
Would you like a glass of water? Obviously, Amanda, they did not have laser in 1964. This, by the way, was a correction to, in summary, was to give somebody the land they owned.
Let's not mess up again. This is forever long.
Yes, it's a correction, so, thank you, Mr. Kitzrow, appreciate it. I'll call the motion. Any questions? I hope not.
Reread it.
All right, hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of Resolution 2914, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. And again, for the record, the public hearing will be held on April the 8th. Before I forget, I neglected to recognize, is Melissa Wilson here? No, and Sam's not here, I don't think. No, Sam's not here. So I want to congratulate and thank them for volunteering to the commissions. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2923.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson.
Resolution number 2923, a resolution of the City of Salisbury making a declaration of official intent regarding reimbursing from proceeds of a future borrowing project expenditures made in connection with two projects identified as bicycle master plan implementation and streetscaping. Whereas the City of Salisbury, a municipal corporation of the state of Maryland, is in the process of undertaking the two projects identified on Schedule A hereto, and whereas the city anticipates borrowing money for costs of the projects, such borrowing to be evidenced by one or more series of general obligation bonds or other evidences of indebtedness to be issued by the city, and whereas the city reasonably expects to spend city funds on costs of the projects prior to issuance of the bonds or an interim financing and incurred by the city in anticipation of the bonds, and to reimburse the city for proceeds of the bonds for all or portion of such previously paid costs of the projects, and or to use bonds proceeds to finance all or portion of an interim borrowing incurred by the city that is applied to reimburse the city for prior project expenditures. And whereas Section 1.150-2 of the U.S. Treasury Regulations provides that the local government's funding original expenditures intended to be reimbursed from the proceeds of obligations must make a declaration of official intent in order to qualify such original expenditures for reimbursement from a reimbursement bond, all within the meaning of the reimbursement regulations. And whereas the city is an issuer of a purpose of the reimbursement regulations and wishes to adopt this resolution for the purpose of evidencing the clear and official intent of the city to reimburse from reimbursement bond proceeds original expenditures made in connection with the projects. Section 1, now therefore it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the recitals to this resolution are deemed a substantive part of this resolution and are incorporated by reference herein in capitalized terms defined in the recitals to this resolution and not otherwise defined herein will have the meaning given to the such terms in the recitals hereto. B, the names of used for the projects on Schedule A. Hereto are the names by which such projects are identified in the capital budget of the city for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019. References in this resolution to the project shall be deemed to include all changes in the scope of activities of any project and/or the name of the project made by the city in accordance with applicable law, including in future fiscal years. References in this resolution to costs of the project shall be deemed to expenditures that constitute capital expenditures and to the extent applicable, costs of the issuance of bond related to any project and the capitalized interest. Section 2, and it be further resolved that in accordance with the reimbursement regulations, the city hereby makes this declaration of its reasonable expectation to expend monies on the cost of the projects prior to the issuance of bonds and to use the proceeds of the bonds, which bonds and/or interim financing will qualify as a reimbursement bond for the purpose of the reimbursement regulations to reimburse all or a portion of such original expenditures. This resolution is intended to be a declaration of official intent within the meaning of the reimbursement regulation. Section 3, and be it further resolved that the maximum principal amount of the bonds to be issued for each project is identified in Schedule A hereto. Section 4, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall become effective upon adoption by the council and approved by the mayor pursuant to Charter Section SC 7-46A. This resolution may not be petitioned to referendum.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2923, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2924.
So move. Second.
Ms. Jackson, Ms. Blake.
Resolution number 2924, a resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, authorizing the capacity fee of the city's comprehensive collection charge to be waived for the redevelopment of 130 and 132 East Main Street. Whereas First Move Properties LLC is requesting a waiver of the capacity fee for the redevelopment of 130 and 132 East Main Street, and whereas the proposed development is located inside the city limits in the Central Business District, and whereas the city seeks to encourage development and redevelopment in the Central Business District, and whereas the city seeks to reduce the capacity fees for eligible development and redevelopment in the Central Business District by means of an equivalent dwelling unit (EDU) incentive area, and whereas as the date of this resolution, 27.04 equivalent dwelling units of the water and sewer services have already been allocated to 132 East Main Street for First Move Properties LLC redevelopment of the property, and pursuant to resolution number 2883 dated November 13th, 2018, the City Council approved the waiver of capacity fees associated with 25.66 of those already allocated equivalent dwelling units. And whereas since the passage of resolution number 2883, First Move has expanded its development plans to include the redevelopment of 130 East Main Street in conjunction with the redevelopment of 132 East Main Street, and will require additional allocation of 31.18 equivalent dwelling units for a total allocation of 58.22 equivalent dwelling units of water and sewer services. And whereas 28.42 of the additional EDUs will be allocated to 130 East Main Street, and 2.76 EDUs will be allocated to 132 East Main Street. And whereas by the letter dated February 12, 2019, First Move Properties LLC submitted to the Director of Infrastructure and Development a request for the waiver of capacity fees associated with the additional allocation of 31.8 EDUs required for First Move Properties LLC's planned continued redevelopment of 130 East Main Street and 132 2 East Main Street. And whereas the current capacity fee for one equivalent dwelling unit is $3,533, and whereas the capacity fee for 31.18 equivalent dwelling units is $110,158.94, and whereas the City Council approved a capacity waiver process under ordinance number 2258 for development in the Central Business District, and whereas the Director of Infrastructure and Development reviewed the request and has determined that the project is eligible for the capacity fee waiver, and whereas the mayor reviewed the request and supports sending the request to the City Council, and whereas if approved, the EDU allocation for the capacity fee waiver is valid for 2 years from the time of the signing of this resolution, and whereas the property owner has the option to request an extension of the allocation for 2 one-year terms, if approved in writing by the Director of Infrastructure and Development prior to the expiration of the term. And whereas the allocated EDUs are assigned to the redevelopment of 130 and 132 East Main Street and cannot be transferred by the recipient. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland approves the waiver of 31.18 equivalent dwelling units of a capacity fee for the redevelopment of 130 and 132 East Main Street by First Move Properties LLC, in addition to the waiver of 25.66 equivalent dwelling units of capacity fee for First Move Properties LLC redevelopment of 132 East Main Street, as approved by the Council of the City of Salisbury pursuant to Resolution Number 2883.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of Resolution 2924, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2925 for the,
So moved.
you got it? April? I'm sorry, who was the,
Second.
Ms. Blake?
Resolution number 2925, a resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, authorizing the capacity fee of the city's comprehensive connection charge to be waived for the redevelopment of 100 East Main Street, Suite 111. Whereas the Shamrock Hospitality LLC has requested a waiver of the capacity fee for the redevelopment of 100 East Main Street, Suite 111, and whereas the proposed redevelopment is located inside the city limits in the Central Business District, and whereas the city seeks to encourage development and redevelopment in the Central Business District, and whereas the city seeks to reduce the capacity fees for eligible development and redevelopment in the Central Business District by means of the equivalent dwelling unit EDU incentive area, and whereas the proposed redevelopment of 100 East Main Street, Suite 111 requires a total of 14 equivalent dwelling units of water and sewer service, and whereas the current capacity fee for one equivalent dwelling unit is $3,530, and whereas the capacity fee for 14 equivalent dwelling units is $49,462, and whereas the City Council approved the capacity fee waiver process under ordinance number 2258 for development of the Central Business District, and whereas the Director of Infrastructure and Development reviewed the request and has determined that the project is eligible for the capacity fee waiver, and whereas the mayor reviewed the request and supports sending the request to City Council, and whereas if approved, the EDU allocation for the capacity fee waiver is valid for 2 years from the time of signing of this resolution, and whereas the property owner has the option to request an extension of the allocation for 2 one-year terms if approved in writing by the Director of Infrastructure and Development prior to expiration of the term, and whereas the allocated EDUs are assigned to the redevelopment of 100 East Main Street, Suite 111 cannot be transferred by the recipient. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland approve the waiver of 14 equivalent dwelling units of capacity fee for the redevelopment of 100 East Main Street, Suite 111 by Shamrock Hospitality LLC.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of Resolution number 2925, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution number 2926.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Boda, Mr. Ireton.
Resolution number 2926, a resolution of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, authorizing the mayor to enter into a cooperative agreement with the Chesapeake Bay Trust to administer a grant program to implement stormwater projects and programs. Excuse me. Whereas the city has a small municipal separate storm sewer system MS4, Phase 2 general discharge permit in which the city must comply with 6 minimum control measures in the impervious area restoration efforts, and whereas the state of Maryland has issued watershed implementation plan goals and the total maximum daily load goals, and whereas the city implemented a stormwater utility to provide funding for the improvements to the storm drainage system in compliance with the MS4 permit and the state water quality goals, and whereas pursuant to City Code Chapter 13.30, the city administers the city stormwater utility fee to fund projects to improve, reduce impacts of stormwater. And whereas the Chesapeake Bay Trust, a nonprofit entity established by the Maryland General Assembly in 1985 to promote public awareness and the participation in the restoration and protection of the water quality, aquatic and land resources of the Chesapeake Bay, and other aquatic and land resources of the state, is authorized to contract with other units of government. And whereas the Chesapeake Bay Trust has developed a grant management process and possesses the technical, financial, and managerial capacity to assist the city with the timely and appropriate commitment and expenditures of funds to expedite the implementation of the city's stormwater goals and regulatory requirements. And whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development has evaluated the opportunity to partner with the Chesapeake Bay Trust through a cooperative agreement and has determined it to be an effective way to implement outreach and restoration projects and programs. And whereas a funding of the cooperative agreement would be made on an annual basis as part of the city budgets contingent upon allocation of funds approved by council. And whereas the mayor and council have determined that it is in the public interest that the city enter into such an agreement, and the Chesapeake Bay Trust has agreed to perform the work described in the attached cooperative agreement and to be bound by the terms contained within it. Now therefore it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland does hereby authorize the mayor to sign the attached cooperative agreement with the Chesapeake Bay Trust for the betterment of the city and its residents.
Any questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions,
Go
if I
ahead.
could. I'm not sure if I'm reading it correctly or not, but am I correct in saying that we're asking for $50,000 to have someone else do the outreach, education, and restoration for projects that will help us with the WIP and the TMDL? And if that is the case, why is it not cheaper for us to do it ourselves? Organizational theory will tell you that the organization exists, so the organization exists, and that's everybody, including the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. And if we could, Mr. President, ask for an update on WIP and TMDL so that the 5 of us might get an idea of how we're doing, where we're doing. It would have been a little easier to go ahead and do this, kind of had that, but if you can help me out.
Sure, and I'll be happy to come back with a detailed explanation of where we are.
Okay.
So the Chesapeake Bay Trust administers this grant program for municipalities and counties. And this is a program where they solicit for proposals from non-government, nonprofit agencies to implement projects. They find that it's very effective to get smaller outreach and restoration projects done that would not necessarily be the type of project that we would target. So this isn't going to change how we approach stormwater projects from our standpoint. We will design projects, put them out to bid, get them constructed. This is targeting different groups that would not necessarily be our highest priority for goals, such as homeowners associations, religious organizations, other groups that have projects that they want to implement, and this would be a pot of money to help them do that, and it's managed by the Chesapeake Bay Trust. So when they first approached us, we met with Anne Arundel County, who has about $1 million a year that they put into this program, and they provided for us proof that it is much more cost-effective to do it this way than their own traditional way, because it's not your traditional design, bid, construct project. It's more of a partnership with small organizations to do their projects. So I do feel like there is an economy of scale by having the Chesapeake Bay Trust manage this. As we had said during work session, this is not the be-all, end-all. This is one tool in our hopefully very varied toolbox that we need to accomplish all of our goals.
Okay, let me ask this question this way then. If the trust went to some place like Mr. Heath mentioned his neighborhood, or say Sleepy Hollow, and they wanted to do a project, is the $50,000 that we're giving to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation going to pay for the project there, or is the city going to be paying for the project after we pay for the Chesapeake Bay to manage the project?
So, no, the $50,000 pays for both their project and their administrative fee. And let me, their fee is in here. It was $2,500 of the $50,000. So they will solicit proposals, and then they will accept proposals from anyone interested in doing projects in the city of Salisbury that meets our goals. They'll then rank those projects. So if they get projects that exceeds $50,000, but it meets all their criteria, they have grants that could then supplement that. So it's a great program for us to possibly leverage our money with their money, and if they get enough proposals, they said that a lot of times they can fund them with the license plate money.
Okay, then let me ask this question. Do we have any proposals that are ready for this $50,000?
So we are going to state what our goals are. I would like projects that reduce nitrogen, we're just going to state our goals, and then we leave it up to the applicants to say, these are the projects that I'm coming back with. So they will put out an RFP later this year, and they'll group Salisbury with the other entities that they work with. But they'll state in the RFP, we've got 50,000 from Salisbury, we have this much from this county, this much from this jurisdiction, and then they'll solicit proposals, and then we'll be on the selection committee for the Salisbury portion of that. So we'll be able to see and make sure that the projects meet the goals that we're looking for.
In your experience and opinion, having people do stormwater management projects is not something they rush to do out of the goodness of their heart. Stormwater management
Right.
projects are hard, they're invasive, they take parking lots. We want them to take parking lots, but it's still seen that way. Without anything in the, I'm trying to figure out who responds to the bid.
Who responds and why?
Yeah.
Yes. So usually, a lot of times it may be like a Wacomico Environmental Trust. It would be a local watershed group of which Chesapeake Bay Trust helps with capacity building. And they said they really come in and help train these local watershed groups and bring them up to speed on how to manage a project and what to do. But then they would reach out to homeowners associations and talk to them and say, oh, you have an issue with this? Okay, we can work with you. We'll manage this project. So they see most of their success has been with watershed groups. Again, this is new for our area, so they said it may take a year or two of capacity building before we get a whole lot of great proposals, but they think within a couple years, we could be exceeding what we're putting towards it.
And you can answer yes to this if you want, but it seems as if it's a little easier to have somebody else manage something else out there than taking your time or staff time to do it.
So in my opinion, this is staff support, and it's just another way to go about a project. So again, we're gonna keep doing all the same things we were doing. This was not an area that we were hitting really hard, so we're putting aside a small portion of the stormwater utility money to see if this will work. So, and we're not locked in. If we try it 1 year and it's not successful, we don't have to, we've put the clause in there that we'll allocate money each year in the budget. I did put this in my operating budget and kept it the level budget as required, so we'll try it the first year, maybe the second, see how it's going. But again, I just feel like this is another tool for us. It's staff support. It's just another means to hopefully get some projects that we wouldn't have otherwise targeted immediately.
Would the Aaron Moore project from that neighborhood, would have been one that would have possibly qualified for this?
That's a great
And-
point. Yes, they
And I
could have
something I wanna
approached
chime-
this.
And actually, I know a little bit about that project, but the Stonegate development actually has 2 years of research on Sandstone Court. There's 24 homes that have been impacted by a stormwater management system that's not been maintained in over 17 years. And what's happening is, there is, I've got the proposal, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm hot on it. So I've got the proposal. So we've got 24 homes in that development that are struggling with damage to their properties, their crawl spaces, heating and air units, all the electricity. And then there's a section in the back, stage 5 of that development. There was a pond put in with some pipes, but it's not working. We don't know who put the pond in. It's not on the plat. We have no idea. We're researching that. But that whole back section is also flooding a huge section of the yard, not yard, but like a ground. We can't utilize that ground for anything else, like a dog park or something like that, like other communities have. So I'm envisioning, when I read this, it would be something like that. And the smaller developments, as we know, in Salisbury, do not yield the kind of dues or the money, the pot of savings to offset, like having engineers come out and do an evaluation, or to help us with even learning how to do the, what is it, where you collect the rainwater, or anything to help us come up with other ideas to offset the amount of water that's soaking our properties.
In the last week?
Yes. Where
busy.
I've lost my rain boots in my backyard. I came right out of them, they were stuck in the mud.
Thank you so much. And Jack, if we could put on an upcoming one.
Kim,
with
can you
the
get it
video.
for the report?
Yeah, be happy
It's the
to.
one science thing I actually do understand. I know how to read this.
Stick with me.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2926, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Kurtz. Before we get into the final two resolutions, because I'm sure you've all looked at the agenda and have picked up the fact that the two resolution numbers on don't match the ones that we talked about before. So let me sort of tell you what happened. I'm going to go through a history here briefly. I'm going to read it so I don't make any mistakes. And this is the history of when we started the Pentex annexation process. On 12/3/2018, the Pentex II annexation was introduced in work session. 12/10/18, the Resolution 2855 approving the Pentex annexation and Resolution 2856 approving the Pentex II annexation plan were initially approved for first reading in the legislative session. 12/22/18 and 12/29/18, the public hearing notification was published in the Daily Times twice as required by state law. 1/14/19, the public hearing was scheduled for the annexation. Residents were sworn in and given the opportunity to speak. A public hearing was then tabled to a later time after further discussion, primarily regarding the shoreline and truck traffic, left council requesting additional information. On February 4th, 2019, the annexation was returned to work session, where Pentex team and city staff discussed the building placements, landscaping, drive-through, and traffic. The public was again invited to the podium to address their concerns and questions. 2008, February 8th, 2019, and February 15th, 2019. The public hearing notification ad was published in the Daily Times twice for March 11th, 2019. State law, we were notified by our solicitor last week, the state law requires the public hearing to be held or continued within 30 days of being rescheduled or continued. The window was missed because of all the work that was being done to try to resolve a lot of the issues. The window was missed to publish the continuation of 1/14/19 public hearing. It must be at least 7 days before the rescheduled date. So the resolutions are now being reintroduced with the new resolution numbers, and a public hearing will be scheduled for April the 8th. So that puts us back on track. This is strictly a formality due to the fact that we missed the time period to have the hearing. So that's where we stand, and that's why the resolutions are on here again, and the numbers are different than the original ones were. Okay? Having said that, I'll now entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2927.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda.
Resolution number 2927. A resolution of the City of Salisbury proposing the annexation to the City of Salisbury of a certain area of land contiguous to and binding upon the northerly corporate limit of the City of Salisbury to be known as the Route 13 North Pentex 2 property annexation, the southerly boundary of which begins at a point on the corporate limit, said point line at the intersection of the easterly right-of-way line of US Route 13, North Salisbury Boulevard, and the northerly boundary line of the lands of PTV 1 LLC, thence running in an easterly direction by and with the northerly line of the lands of PTV 1 LLC. Whereas the City of Salisbury has received a petition to annex dated May 25th, 2018, signed by at least 25% of the persons who are resident registered voters and of the persons who are owners of at least 25% of the assessed valuation of the real property sought to be annexed. And whereas the said property is binding upon the northerly corporate limit of the City of Salisbury to be known as Route 13 North Pentex 2 property annexation, the southerly boundary of which begins at a point on the corporate limit, said point lying at the intersections of the easterly right-of-way line of US 13 North Salisbury Boulevard and the northerly boundary line of the lands of PTV 1 LLC, thence running in an easterly direction by and with the northerly line of lands of PVT 1 LLC. And whereas the city has caused to be made certification of the signatures on the said petitions for the annexation and has verified that the person signing the petition represents at least 25% of the persons who are eligible voters and property owners owning 25% of the assessed valuation of the real property in the area to be annexed, all as of June 19, 2018. And as more particular appears by the certification of Leslie C. Sherrill, surveyor of the City of Salisbury, attached hereto, and whereas the petition date, May 25th, 2018, meets all the requirements of the applicable law, and whereas a public hearing required by law is scheduled on April 8th, 2019 at 6 p.m. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Salisbury that the boundaries of the City of Salisbury be changed so as to annex to and include within the city all of the parcels of land together with the persons residing therein and their property contiguous to and binding upon the northerly corporate limit of the City of Salisbury, the southerly boundary of which begins at the point on the corporate limit and said point line at the intersections of the easterly right-of-way line of US Route 13 North Salisbury Boulevard and the northerly boundary line of the lands of PTV I LLC, thence running in the easterly direction by and with the northerly line of the lands of PVT. Just to make sure, that, Mark, that is an I, or is that a 1? I just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. PT,
We got that from the
PVT.
documents. I think it's.
It is an I.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is PTV? Yeah, okay, PTV I LLC. Just want to make sure I'm saying it right. And being more particularly described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof. And be it further resolved by the City of Salisbury that the annexation of the said area be made subject to the terms, conditions, and agreements and Exhibits A through C attached hereto and made part hereof, and be it further resolved by the City of Salisbury that the zoning map of the City of Salisbury shall be amended to include the newly annexed property in the general commercial zoning district. Said property is presently classified as C-2 General Commercial District under the zoning laws of Wycomico County. And be it further resolved by the City of Salisbury that the council hold a public hearing in the annexation hereby proposed on April 8, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers at the City County Office Building. The city administrator shall cause a public notice of the time and place said hearing to be published not fewer than 2 times and not less than weekly intervals in a newspaper of general circulation in the City of Salisbury, which said notice shall specify a time and place at which the council of the City of Salisbury will hold a public hearing on the resolution, which date shall be no sooner than 15 days after the final required date of the publication specified above. And be it further resolved by the council of the City of Salisbury that this resolution shall take effect upon the expiration of 45 days following its final passage, subject, however, to the right of referendum as contained in the local government article of Maryland Code.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2927, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2928.
So moved. For a second.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda.
Resolution number 2928, a resolution of the City of Salisbury to adopt an annexation plan for a certain area of land contiguous to and binding upon the northerly corporate limit of the City of Salisbury to be known as Route 13 North Pentex property, Pentex 2 property annexation, the southerly boundary of which begins at the point on the land corporate limit, said point line at the intersection of the easterly right-of-way line of the US Route 13 North Salisbury Boulevard and the northerly boundary line of the lands of PTVI LLC, thence running in an easterly direction by and with the northerly line of lands of PTVI LLC. Whereas the City of Salisbury is considering the annexation of a parcel of land contiguous to and binding upon the northerly corporate limit of the City of Salisbury, the southerly boundary of which begins at the point on the said corporate limit, said point line at the intersection of the easterly right-of-way line of US Route 13 North Salisbury Boulevard and the northerly boundary lines of lands of PTVI LLC, thence running in an easterly direction by and with the northerly line of lands of PTVI LLC and being more particular described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made part hereof, and whereas the City of Salisbury is required to adopt an annexation plan for the proposed area of annexation pursuant to the local government article of Maryland Annotated Code, and whereas the public hearing required by law is scheduled for April 8, 2019 at 6 p.m. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Salisbury that an annexation plan for the Route 13 North Pentex 2 property annexation as set forth in Exhibit B, attached hereto and made a part of and is adopted for the area of the land located and binding upon the northerly corporate limit of the City of Salisbury, the southerly boundary of which begins at the point on the said corporate limit, said point line at the intersection of the easterly right-of-way line of US Route 13 North Salisbury Boulevard and the northerly boundary line of lands of PTV LLC, thence running in an easterly direction by and with the northerly line of lands of PTV LLC, and being more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made in part hereof, said parcel being contiguous to and binding upon the corporate limit of the City of Salisbury. And be it further resolved by the City of Salisbury that the council hold a public hearing on the annexation plan hereby proposed on April 8, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers at the City Council Office Building. The city administrator shall cause a public notice of the time and place of said hearing to be published not fewer than 2 times at not less 2 times at not less than weekly intervals in a newspaper of general circulation in the City of Salisbury, which said notice shall specify a time and place at which the council of the City of Salisbury will hold a public hearing on the resolution.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2928, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Chair votes aye. There will be a public hearing on this item on April the 8th and on the previous resolution as well. In addition to this, I want to make, to be totally transparent, let everyone know that the plan was to be scheduled for the Planning Commission meeting this month. And it is going to be our request that that still stay on the agenda. I'm not sure whether it's going to be approved or not, whether that's going to stay on the agenda with a contingency clause in it based on our final approval. It's been done in the past, and I'm going to continue since Pentex has met several occasions, and it's really our issue that we have to deal with. So I will let you know. I would advise everyone to check next week. We're going to get this straightened out this week, but I would ask that you check on the website, the Planning and Zoning Code website, if you're interested in attending that meeting. Okay, at this time I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2526 for the second reading.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Ireton. Good evening, Mr. Tillman.
Good evening. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the FY19 budget to appropriate funds for surveying equipment. Whereas survey equipment was owned by the City of Salisbury was stolen from a city vehicle, and whereas the City of Salisbury Department of Infrastructure and Development purchased replacement equipment so as not to impact the operations of the survey team, and whereas the city's insurance agency, Local Government Insurance Trust, is reimbursing the city for value of the equipment less the deductible, and whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development budget should be amended to replace this fund spent with the insurance proceeds, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the city's fiscal year 2019 budget is hereby amended as follows. Increase insurance proceeds account budget, or insurance proceeds budget by $18,994 and increase the engineering equipment budget by an equivalent amount.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2526 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2527 for the second reading.
Second.
Mr. Ireton, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY19 general fund budget to appropriate insurance proceeds received in the FY19 to aid in the purchase of a new vehicle for the police fleet. Whereas the police patrol vehicle 1485, a 2014 Chevrolet Caprice, was involved in a flooding incident and deemed a total loss. And whereas insurance proceeds from vehicle number 1485 equal $25,800, and whereas Salisbury Police Patrol Vehicle 1484, a 2014 Chevrolet Caprice, was involved in a motor vehicle accident not deemed a total loss, and whereas the insurance proceeds from vehicle 1484 is $8,461, and whereas the Salisbury Police Department is requesting the insurance proceeds from both vehicles be placed in the Salisbury Police Department vehicle purchase account 21021-577025 in the amount of $34,261, and whereas the Salisbury Police Department will utilize the funds appropriated from the insurance adjustment to purchase a new vehicle for our Criminal Investigations Division, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the city's fiscal year 2019 general fund budget is hereby amended as follows. Increase insurance proceeds by $34,261, increase the police department budget by an equivalent amount.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2527 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2528 for the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ireton, Ms. Blake.
Okay, this is, you didn't call my name, did you?
Mr. Tillman.
I didn't want to step on anything. An ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's fiscal year 2019 general fund budget to appropriate funding of the city government office building improvements. Whereas the city has entered into an agreement with Wycomico County to settle disputed charges, and whereas the city shall reimburse the county for one half the cost related to the GOB chiller in the amount of $252,474.86, and whereas the city shall contribute a portion of the FY 2019 payment for the Grant Capital Management, Inc. master lease of $17,051.50 to the county, and whereas the county shall reimburse the city $89,572 to settle claims arising from the construction and operation of a sludge handling facility, and whereas the total amount of the municipal buildings account expense is $269,526.36, and whereas the total amount to be paid in the current fiscal year by the city to the county is $179,954.36, and whereas the remaining $89,572 shall be paid to the city's water and sewer fund, and whereas additional details are available in the attached settlement agreement, and whereas the city's FY 2019 general fund budget does not contain an appropriation sufficient to cover the required expenses, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury that the city's FY 2019 capital projects fund budget be amended as follows. Increase current year surplus by $269,526.36, increase municipal buildings by an equivalent amount.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2528 2528 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair
Nay.
vote. Nay?
Nay.
One nay. Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2529 for the second reading.
So moved.
Ms. Jackson?
Second.
Mr. Boda? Mr. Tillman?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to amend the Salisbury Municipal Code, Chapter 8.16, Garage, Yard Waste, and Refuse, subsections .010, .020 D and F, .060, .090 C, and .100 B and C to better define yard waste, to better define bulk collection services for high-density residential units, to update the collection rules and regulations, to add new can replacement policy, and to add corrugated cardboard to recycling. Whereas the mayor and city council have requested that Chapter 8.16 of the city code be periodically reviewed, and whereas the ongoing application, administration, enforcement of Chapter 8.16 demonstrates a need for its periodic review, evaluation, and amendment to keep the chapter current, and whereas garbage, yard waste, and refuse needs have changed since the last time Chapter 8.16 was updated, whereas the city wishes to limit the size and weight of tree and shrub limbs that are eligible for yard waste pickup by the city, and whereas the city desires to have all household items containing fabric completely encased and sealed tightly before being discarded from a dwelling, and whereas the city desires to add batteries to the list of prohibited items for collection, and whereas the city desires to add a new can replacement policy of 5 years for all new cans purchased from the city, and whereas this amendment will update several sections of 8.16, now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Chapter 8.16, subsections .010, .020 D and F, .060, .090 C, and .100 B and C of the Salisbury Code be amended as follows. Under 8.16.010, there's added the high-density definition, which means a multi-unit complex or subdivision where trash is deposited, subsection where trash is disposed of by residents in a common area designated for trash disposal. The definition of yard waste has been amended. It will means garden, lawn, and tree trimmings and leaves which can be deposited in a plastic or biodegradable bag. Tree and shrubbery limbs must be securely bundled in lengths not to exceed 4 feet, and no individual branch may exceed 4 inches in diameter. Bundles may not weigh more than 40 pounds. 8.16.020 has just been changed primarily to reflect, the changes in the names of the organization after the reorganization of the city. And then the last sentence there says that disposal of bulk items at a multi-unit complex is the responsibility of the managing authority. Subsection F, again, the same thing. There's an exclusion there. Basically just eliminating the word church and sticking with the bona fide charitable, religious, social welfare, recreational nonprofit organizations, not including medical waste generators. And that's pretty much the entirety of the changes under subsection F. Under subsection 8.16.060A, the primary change is that refuse containers shall be purchased from the city. All containers and lids shall be maintained in a clean and sanitary condition. Containers shall not be set out for collection containing free liquids or rainwater. Containers shall be kept free of dead animals, vermin, lice, maggots, or the like, and unreasonably offensive odors resulting from the lack of cleanliness, feces, or items which may be infectious or disease-bearing. Containers which have become excessively worn shall be promptly replaced at the owner's expense. Owners shall be notified if their refuse container is in disrepair and is unusable. This includes, but is not limited to, missing lids, leaking containers, and damaged or missing wheels or handles. Owners have 30 days to purchase a new refuse container or adequately repair their existing container. Subsection B is added on line 94. Can replacement policy. The city will record can serial numbers, purchaser name, address, and purchase date to use In requests for replacement during the first 5 years following a purchase, cans may be replaced at no charge to the owner under certain conditions. City-provided replacements will be limited to damage caused by a sanitation truck or defects in manufacturing during the first 5 years after the purchase of the can. Final determination of can replacement will be at the discretion of the city sanitation superintendent. All other can replacements will be at the expense of the owner. There's just a change in the wording, beginning with the new subsection C, lines 102 through lines 112, and basically at the bottom it says the owner shall contact the city service center by 12 p.m. on Friday to request a pickup for the ensuing Monday. Requests made after 12 p.m. on Friday will be picked up the second Monday from the request. Subsection C, I think that those were items that were just moved into the prior section that I just read. Subsection D, it remains unchanged. E, where we get into the high density, and that says where collection services provided in a community that has a managing authority or is classified as high density, the individual residents, the managing authority, community condominium organization shall be responsible for the transporting of refuse to the containers provided and for the maintenance and cleanliness of the areas adjacent to the container. The developer, owner, and legally responsible managing authority shall be responsible for providing accessible space for bulk containers paved and screened from public view. Such provision shall be approved by the city. Material acceptable for containerized collection service shall in all respects be compatible with the definitions for refuge as defined in this chapter. We're just changing some capitalization in subsection F. Subsection G, a person shall not place residential refuse in public containers within the city limits, with the exception of downtown plaza residents who may place their refuse in containers specifically designated in the downtown area to accept refuse from downtown plaza residents. Waste generated outside the corporate limits of the city of Salisbury shall not be disposed of or placed in any private or public containers within the city limits. Under H, the upholstered furniture and mattresses and box springs or any household item containing fabric shall be completely encased and sealed tightly in plastic before discarding them from a dwelling. Heavy polyvinyl sheeting, shrink wrap, or other non-permeable material shall be used to seal items. And then the additional wording there has just been eliminated. It's previously referred to bug infested, and now it's pretty much anything. Any material covered item. The 156, again, we're just changing some capitalization and changing the word person to resident. And item K, that's one of the sections that's been moved to one of the ones that I previously read. Under monthly disposal fee, if the Department of Field Operations determine that a residential unit regularly produces collectible refuse requiring more than one refuse container, the owner of the individual unit shall be required to purchase and use additional refuse containers. Under 8.16.100 recycling, we're pretty much adding corrugated cardboard as an additional item and changing the recycling coordinator to the sanitation superintendent. And that's it.
Any questions or comments?
Lest we think no one pays attention with the thousands of people watching us on PAC 14 this evening, but our bulk pickup in my neighborhood is in 2 weeks. And I got a call. I won't paraphrase it exactly the way it came through the phone. How does one wrap a mattress completely in plastic, and where does one get the plastic to wrap said mattress?
Home Depot.
I am not a handyman. I had no answers.
Home Depot.
Home Depot.
Okay, you can get wrapped.
Or
for
Lowe's.
You
an
can get, it's
entire
called
mattress.
neoprene.
Is that's in a different section of the store than I go in?
It's a
Is that-
neoprene.
Just ask the guy and says hi.
It's down in the building supplies.
Wow.
Yeah,
I have
but
no
you can get
clue.
it at Lowe's or
No,
Home
you
Depot.
can't tell anybody that I asked you, because I want to sound really good.
Okay.
Well, no,
Okay.
no, I mean, if you
Well,
don't know, you don't know.
So
It's
you
called
can,
the
I mean, like, literally, it's mattress wrap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shrink wrap.
And you could probably also check
Do
at
stretch
one of the
wrap.
mattress stores too.
Yeah, it's called shrink
They
wrap.
also sell lumber there.
you can get shrink or stretch.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I
I
think
bought a
that,
vacuum cleaner.
that's awesome. Actually, what might even be a cheaper option is you can go to Walmart and get one of those plastic mattress covers and just zip it. Usually they could be $5 or $6, and it's covered with plastic.
And you know where the
Yeah.
pillows are?
It's
There's a
in the
section down
pillows,
that
like
one
It's a
aisle.
section that
Sheet
covers.
section
sheets and
covers.
stuff.
I'll show you next
All
time.
right, we'll finish this offline so we can
Yeah.
pass the ordinance.
Yeah.
All right. I'll now call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2529 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2530 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda and Ms. Jackson. Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the United States Department of Commerce for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $37,500 and approving a budget amendment to the FY 2019 General Fund to appropriate funds to and for the Salisbury Port Feasibility Study. Whereas the United States Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration has an economic adjustment assistance program, and whereas the purpose of the grant program is to provide economically distressed communities and regions with comprehensive and flexible resources to add a wide variety of economic needs, and whereas the City of Salisbury submitted a grant application for funding to the EDA to support the feasibility study for a potential Salisbury port, and whereas the EDA has awarded the city funds in the amount of $37,500, and whereas the City Salisbury must enter into a grant agreement with the EDA defining how these funds must be expended, and whereas all funds shall be used to procure a contracted firm to conduct the aforementioned feasibility studies, and whereas Section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter forbids contracts requiring expenditure in excess of the amounts appropriated for that general classification or expenditure, and forbids any office, department, or agency from expending funds not appropriated, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the council of the City of Salisbury hereby authorizes Mayor Jacob R. Day to enter into an agreement with the EDA for acceptance of these funds. Be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2019 general fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Increase the FY19 EDA port feasibility revenue account by $37,500. Increase the fiscal year 19 EDA port feasibility expense account by an equivalent amount.
Any questions or comments?
If I could, we have the award in here. Is there any way to get a copy of the grant proposal so that we might see where this port is as we approve?
I will send that in email to Ms. Nichols and ask that to go out to everybody. But last I heard, it was still, the port study was mostly to establish where that location would be, and a lot of the details.
It also says on here, Nancy, that the recipient shares $37,500 worth of a cost for a total estimated cost of $75,000.
Yes, sir.
37,000 here, 37,000 there. I'd like to see what we're talking about, because we moved 37,000 from the grant into a placeholder for them. Where is our 37,500 coming from?
That is a great question that I do not have the answer to, but I can find that answer.
That's cool. I mean, I'm gonna vote for it, because I know we need one a little further up. What we've always heard about Salisbury is we have the second busiest port in Maryland, so if there's a need for a bigger one, and I think I know where it is, and I think I know why it's going out there, but I'd still like to see the
Nancy, would you take care of that, what you
Yes,
said?
sir.
appreciate
and
it.
I will.
with Kim? And they just get it out to all of us?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ireton. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2530 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2531 for the first reading. Mr. Boda? Mr. Ireton? Mr. Tillman?
Thank you. It's an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Wycomico County Health Department for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $20,934 and approving a budget amendment to the FY 2019 grant fund to appropriate funds for the Housing First program. Whereas the Wycomico County Health Department applied for funds from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and wait a minute. Funds from the administration's SAMHSA projects for assistance in transition from homelessness PATH grant program, and whereas the purpose of the grant program is to fund services for people with serious mental illness experiencing homelessness, and whereas the SAMHSA has awarded the Wycomico County Health Department funds through the PATH program, and whereas the Wycomico County Health Department is subgranting $20,934 to the City of Salisbury, and whereas the subgranted funds shall be used for the City of Salisbury's Housing First program, and whereas the City of Salisbury must enter into a subgrant agreement with the Wycomico County Health Department defining how these funds must be expended, and whereas Section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter forbids contracts requiring an expenditure in excess of the amount appropriated for that general classification or expenditure, and forbids any office, department, or agency from expending funds not appropriated, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury that the council hereby authorizes Mayor Jacob R. Day to enter into a sub-grant agreement with the Wycomico County Health Department for acceptance of these funds, and be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2019 grant fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. 1, increase the fiscal year PATH grant revenue account by $20,934. 2, increase the fiscal year 19 PATH grant expense account by an equivalent amount.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2531 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2532 for the first reading.
So moved.
Ms. Jackson?
Second.
Ms. Blake? Mr. Tillman?
It's an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Care First Foundation for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $75,000 and approving a budget amendment to the FY 2019 grant fund to appropriate funds for the Salisbury Wycomico Integrated First Care Team. Whereas the City of Salisbury applied for and received funds through the First Care Foundation grant program, and whereas the purpose of the grant program is to provide leadership in assessing and addressing a range of community health issues, including health care quality, affordability, and accessibility, and whereas the City of Salisbury will use these grant funds to operate the Salisbury Wycomico First Care Team, SWIFT, and whereas the City of Salisbury must enter into a grant agreement with Care First Foundation defining how these funds must be expended, and whereas Section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter forbids contracts requiring an expenditure in excess of the amounts appropriated for the general classification or expenditure, and forbids any office, department, or agency from expending funds not appropriated, and whereas appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury that the council hereby authorizes Mayor Jacob R. Day to enter into an agreement with Care First Foundation for the acceptance of these funds. Be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2019 grant fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Increase FY19 Care First SWIFT grant revenue account by $75,000. Paragraph 2, increase SWIFT salaries non-clerical expenditure account by $40,500. Paragraph 3, increase SWIFT FICA expenditure account by $3,098. 4, increase SWIFT health insurance expenditure account by $14,516, and increase the SWIFT life insurance expenditure account by $2. And paragraph 6, increase the SWIFT retirement LEOPS expenditure account by $13,049. In paragraph 7, increase SWIFT workers' compensation expenditure account by $3,835. Be it further ordained that this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage.
Any questions or comments? I just personally would like to thank Care First Foundation for support of the SWIFT program, which is one of the most successful programs in the city. And it helps both it helps the patients, it helps the city, and certainly helps for reduction of costs, which is a prime concern. If there's no other comments, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2532 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Mrs. Nichols, do you have any requests for public comment?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you for
I didn't know I had to sign up. I'd like to speak if I may.
you have to sign up every time for the council meeting. So we'll let you go ahead. Yeah,
Do you want him to fill it out after?
they can fill it out afterwards. Yeah. Just please go to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 4 minutes' time.
I'm Philip LaBelle. I'm a resident on Mallard Drive in Chestnut Hill and representative on behalf of 5 neighborhood associations. And here with me tonight is Steve Brewer, who is the captain of Danwood, which is another neighborhood association. This is the 3rd time I've come before the council. I appreciate the time you've afforded me to speak, although I was out of order in doing so. A couple of comments I want to make, which is that the Pentex folks left, but Steve and I met with them last Thursday, and they reviewed with us the plan as revised. So we had a chance to get some insight into how they were trying to accommodate the interest that you, President Heath, cited in your recap of the legislation as it now stands. I just want to leave you with this one thought. We certainly appreciate the efforts on behalf of Becker Morgan and Pentex to work with neighborhood associations such as ours. It's a difficult call, and maybe it will be resolved in your planning group session, but we still do not have a clear idea of how some of the, if you will, concerns we have about sound and lighting would be addressed, because the plan is, while it's revised, it doesn't give us a clear idea, and they still have to work it out with the property owners of the 2 restaurants in question. So we did have a chance to look at details for that, and we did appreciate their making that available to us, but I'm still standing here in front of you without really having a clear idea of how some of that will work out. Certainly progress was made. We do appreciate that, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Could you go to the podium, please? So we have to get you on.
I just have questions all, so I understand. So on the 8th, this will be taken up again, and at that time, there will also be a chance for public comments, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, that's what I just want to make sure of.
Anyone else? All right. If there is no other business, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Really serious.